doing?
We're working on our Tokugawa Shogunate project for WHAP.
That sounds boring.
No, it's not. In fact, we're working on our presentation right now. You should see it. And it's Disney themed.
Fine.
Yeah. The Tokugawa Shogunate ruled across these borders. The capital moved from Kyoto to Edo, later known as the famous Tokyo. Yeah, these borders don't encompass the entirety of the archipelago, but the Meiji period is responsible for that.
The Tokugawa shogunate emerged in 1603 after the shogun's victory at the Battle of Sekigahara, ending civil wars from the Sengoku period. The Shimabara Rebellion followed in 1637 when Europeans introduced Christianity. Because of this rebellion, trade was centralized in minimal ports like Nagasaki. The collapse was prompted by Commodore Perry, who influenced the last shogun to open up their trade ports again in 1867. The Meiji Restoration in 1868 officially established the end of the shogunate and paved the way for modern-day Japan.
The Tokugawa shogunate had four main social classes, similar to the dark side of the Force in Star Wars. The lower class during this period were the outcasts, the Ita and Hinin. They were people who betrayed and schemed against the emperor and commonly lived their lives as guards, entertainers, and beggars. These terms translate to filthy and non-human, just like the resistance in Star Wars plotting how to defeat Darth Vader. Merchants were up next on the pyramid. They were considered part of the lower classes because of Japan's Confucian beliefs. They believed it to be a useless profession and a bad practice to deal with money.
But politically speaking, Mother Gothel in the movie Tangled can be paralleled with the Japanese government in the Tokugawa shogunate. Like, Mother Gothel isolated Rapunzel to protect her and preserve her hair.
We must protect your beautiful, luscious locks, Rapunzel. But I want to see the light. You will never leave the tower.
Start on the chores and sweep till the floor's all clean.
The Japanese government cut off trade with other countries to preserve the culture and authority of aristocrats. Additionally, the Japanese government was highly centralized with a hierarchy, the shogun being at the top. The shogun was responsible for overseeing the relations of Japan within itself and with other nations. The daimyos, who were each governors with their own rules and administrations, were still required to stay loyal to the shogun. Emperors of the Tokugawa shogunate were also required to stay loyal to the shogun and had very little power in comparison to emperors of other states in Asia.
Just like Belle's Village, in the Edo period, under the Tokugawa shogunate's rule was primarily peaceful. In a sense, the beast portrays local authorities, while Gaston represents the peasants who converted to Catholicism. The Shimabara region was dominated by Portuguese and Spanish missionaries as depicted by Belle. They gave way for local authorities to abuse Catholic converts and enforce strict taxes. Samurais would often take the majority of the land, leaving little to no fields to sustain the peasants the way the beast took Belle away from Gaston. To prevent another rebellion from forming, the shogunate forbade Christianity and the influence of Europe as a whole.
You know Pocahontas and how she went to find and create a new world? Well, like that, the Tokugawa Empire was formed by the Tokugawa Ieyasu and thrived for a really long time. Just like John Smith, lots of the population died from sicknesses. The sickness which wiped out majority of the population was the epidemic of smallpox. Smallpox wiped out about 1 million people in Japan, which happens to be about a third of the population. The Tokugawa struggled with smallpox, and the tribe of Pocahontas had to deal with European diseases as well. Even though the European diseases took over the Native Americans, for the Tokugawa shogunate, the tribe they were able to block out the spread of the diseases through the isolation of their country.
The Tokugawa had some similarities to Chinese culture as seen in Mulan. In the movie Mulan, the standard is for girls to marry and take care of their children due to Confucian influence on China. Mulan's choice to join the war was seen as disrespectful and was essentially unheard of. Women were typically sent to the matchmaker to find a husband and get married, as that was their primary role. Similarly, in the Tokugawa shogunate, women were supposed to stay home and supervise their kids. This is because of Chinese influence, as the two countries were relatively close and Japan had previously been very connected with China.
You might not have realized, but Frozen relates a lot to trade and commerce. Because of Elsa's accidental snowstorm, it prevented ships from entering and leaving Arendelle. Although this situation happened by chance, the Tokugawa shogunate faced a similar event just like this one called the Act of Seclusion in 1636, which isolated Japan from foreign countries for 200 years. But Japan still continued to maintain its relationships with its neighboring countries like Korea and China. Exactly like the Duke of Wesselton, which Anna met at the ball. The Tokugawa shogunate also had many industrial advancements through crops, rice, sesame oil, sugarcane, and cotton, exactly like Kristoff by making a living selling his goods like ice since Arendelle had a monopoly of it.
In Big Hero 6, Professor Callahan takes Hero's invention, thousands of microbots, and repurposes them for evil. Although not his own invention, he repurposes it and uses it in new ways. The Tokugawa shogunate created little original technology, as Japan solely reused inventions and concepts from other countries, such as China. These inventions include gunpowder and printing.
Remember how in The Lion King, Scar took over the reign of Mufasa?
Long live the king!
Something similar happened in Japan, which led to the start of the Tokugawa shogunate. Japan was once a decentralized state, which was being continuously fought over. However, in 1600, Tokugawa Ieyasu won the Battle of Sekigahara and defeated the daimyo. He then used his power to unify and centralize Japan, forming the Tokugawa shogunate in 1603 with the capital at Edo, which later became known as Tokyo.
President Business gave up on maintaining social order just as the Tokugawa shogunate did after experiencing major westernization, introduced by Commodore Perry and his black ships.
Do you want to be friends?
I think we should give them a chance.
I don't think we should trust them.
A few moments later.
The shogunate's military weakened as the samurais held political responsibility. Also, Japan became financially unstable with inflation by deriving its people from the land needed to sustain them. The reign of the Tokugawa shogunate would officially end the Meiji period, which would prominently contribute to the evolution of modern-day Japan.
The Tokugawa shogunate was the final period of Japanese traditions. It was the last of the shogunates and had been a really powerful empire. They had been very conserved for a period of time for fear of the harms of foreign influences, but nowadays have grown to be the amazing Tokyo, a really big and popular city.
So what do you think of it?
You lost me at shogunate.